Okay, this is 3.7a of algebra. So we're going to work now with solving absolute value equations. So when I'm solving an absolute value equation, the goal, so here's my equation up here. The goal is to get my absolute value alone. So once I get my absolute value alone, so if we look over here at this problem, they subtracted 2 from both sides. And then they got the absolute value of x is equal to 7. Well, if we remember, the absolute value bars change a negative number into a positive number. And if there's a positive number in there, it just stays positive. So either the x is a positive 7 or it's a negative 7. Because if it was a positive 7, it would just keep it positive and my answer would be 7. If it was a negative 7, it would change the negative to be a positive and my answer would be 7. So then if we need to graph it, we can just graph those 2 points. So I graph negative 7 and I graph 7. So let's try ours right now. Okay, so I need to get the absolute value of n alone, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And I get the absolute value of n is equal to 3. So I'm going to set n equal to a positive 3 and n equal to a negative 3. So either n is equal to 3 or n is equal to negative 3. So if I graph that, oops, put points there, that's what my graph would look like. And if I want to check my answer, I can plug it in. The absolute value of 3 is just 3, so this turns into 3 minus 5 is equal to negative 2. 3 minus 5 is negative 2, so I get negative 2 is equal to negative 2. And if I plug in negative 3, the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. And again, 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Okay. So let's read through our first problem. It says, starting from 100 feet away, your friend skates towards you and then passes by you. She skates at a constant speed of 20 feet per second. Her distance d from you in feet after t seconds is given by this equation right there. D is equal to the absolute value of 100 minus 20t. At what time is she 40 feet away from you? Okay, so our got it problem is similar. It says another friend's distance d from you in feet after t seconds is given by this equation. D is equal to the absolute value of 80 minus 5t. So what does the 80 in the equation represent? Well, if we look back up to the top, the 80 is in the place where the 100 was. And in our top equation, the 100 feet was how far away they were starting. So the 80 feet is how far away they were starting. And then they want to know what the 5 represents. So the 5 is where the 20 was, and that was their speed. So the 5 is the speed. At what time is she 60 feet away from you? So 60 feet, is that distance or is that time? That's distance, right? So we're going to plug in for D. So I get 60 is equal to 80 minus 5t in absolute values. Okay, so when we're solving these ones, same idea. I need to get the absolute values alone. So already, I only have absolute values on the right side of my equation. Once you get the absolute value bars alone, you set it equal to 60 without the absolute value bars. So 60 is equal to, let me move it so I have more room. 60 is equal to 80 minus 5t. But I also need to set it equal to negative 60. So negative 60 equals 80 minus 5t. So when I set up, and I'm always going to set up 2 equations. When I set up those 2 equations, I make one of them positive and I make one of them negative, and I drop my absolute value bars. And then I can solve it. So I'll subtract 80 from both sides over here, and I get negative 20. It's equal to negative 5t. Then I divide by negative 5, and I get t is equal to 4. Over here, I'm going to subtract 80. Subtract 80. Get negative 140 equals negative 5t. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. And 140 divided by 5 is 28, so t equals 28. So, if you're trying to picture this in your mind, they're coming toward you, they're skating towards you, or maybe in this case they're not skating. They're skating slowly if they're skating. They're coming towards you, and after 4 seconds of coming towards you, this answer over here, the 4 seconds, they're probably in front of you. They're in front of you because they were 80 feet away. And so they'll be 60 feet away from you after 4 seconds. If they ski even longer, after 28 seconds, they're going to be 60 feet from you, but they're going to be behind you from the other direction. They'll have gone past you. So if you're here and your friend's here, right? So they're skating towards you, and at 4 seconds, there's 60 feet between you. If they keep skating, at 28 seconds, they're 60 feet away from you again, but they've skated totally past you and are now behind you. Okay, and then solving an absolute value equation with no solution. So first, we're just going to treat this like a regular absolute value equation that we're going to solve. So our goal is first to get the absolute value alone. So I need to get rid of this 5 over here. It's a negative 5, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides to get rid of it. I get the absolute value of 3x minus 6 is equal to negative 2. This is not possible, right? When I take the absolute value, it makes my answer positive. So there's no way that after taking the absolute value, I can get a negative 2. So, no solution. So, if you ever get it so that your absolute value is equal to a negative number, there is no solution. And there's your homework.